Hey, hello. Welcome to our last meetup this year.
Maybe before we start, is there anyone here who doesn't speak Czech? Okay, so yeah,
Okay.
it makes sense.
Makes sense then. Make it in English,
Yeah.
right? So, today's topic is tools you shouldn't miss. And the first of our speakers will be Filip, and he will tell us something about Nx and GitHub Copilot. Enjoy.
Hey guys, you probably know me. I'm the organizer of this meetup. I had my last talk at the very first meetup actually, so it's a couple of years back. Today we decided with Petr, who is the second co-organizer, that we will present something by ourselves, because today is our last meetup this year. We will continue in January, but for this year, this is the last one. So I would like to tell you something about some tools which I found interesting. Maybe first few words about myself. So I'm a lead software engineer at Mastercard at the moment. This is actually a QR code to my presentation, so if you'd like to download it to see it, you can just use that QR code. I work as a front-end engineer or web engineer for about 25 years, and if you ask how come that I enjoy it for so long, the answer is that I really like the tools which are evolving rapidly in terms of front-end. I started when there was an Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer 3 was released, and that was a big thing that time. And I was really curious about new things, which was CSS that year. And now, yeah, I'm more likely to React and mostly developing front-end applications, not much on the server side. So this is something about myself. And today I'd like to actually show you two things, two tools which I like. One is Nx. I'd like to ask you, how many of you know Nx? Okay, it's less than half. How many of you use Nx daily? Okay, it's one. That's surprising. I would expect actually more, because Nx is around for a while. I think that the first release was in 2018, something like that. I think October 2018, but I haven't used it at the time. I started using it probably 2 years back. Originally, so what is Nx? So originally, a few developers from Google who worked on Angular, they actually decided to prepare some scaffolding for a monorepo, because they used monorepos a lot, and they wanted to have some nice framework which they can use and scaffold some new applications and libraries quicker than without any framework. So that was the beginning. Right now there is about 220 core developers who actually release a new major release every like half year, and about 600 contributors. It has like 15K stars on GitHub, and they actually just raised a seed round of $8.6 million. It's like this month. So they have now money to develop it further. So I believe that this tool won't die quickly. So just use it. You will see how interesting it is and how easy it is to set it up. And the second tool which I'd like to present, and I'm not going deeper now because I'll do some live coding session. I hope everything will work, especially internet is very important, like the connection, because without that the Copilot won't work. So the Copilot is actually a new tool from GitHub and OpenAI. It was released, I think, June last year, and it's actually cloud-based AI tool developed by those companies to actually help you writing code. It's not writing whole code for you, but it helps a lot, and you will see some nice examples. The funny thing is that it always suggests something else, because you know how the machine learning and these kind of things work. So even if you ask 2 times the same question, it can answer differently. Even so, I prepared this demo. I don't know what will be the result. That will be the fun part. And what to mention else? Right now, they actually support Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, Go, C# or C++. And not just that, they actually trained that also for native language, which is very important, because you can start typing your comments and it actually understands the native language, and it can suggest based on the comment some code for you, which is very handy, and you will see that in my examples, because this is exactly how I'm gonna work. And right now there are extensions for VS Code, obviously, but also for Visual Studio and JetBrains IDEs. So basically it covers most of the editors front-end developers or even back-end developers probably use, not probably all of them, but most of it. So I think that's it as an introduction. And right now there is time to show you how to start some application quickly. And give me just a second, because now I need to share my screen here and just to mirror it instead of separate display. Okay. It only shows Chrome. Great. Is it readable enough, or should I zoom in? Can you see it from the back, or not really? I can zoom in a bit if that helps. And can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. I tested it briefly before this session, so I hope everything's gonna work well, but in case that I forget something, I have my paper notes here, so hopefully everything will work. So to start a new workspace, you need a few things. You need Yarn, obviously, and also Node to pre-install. This is something you probably have. And all you need to run now is yarn create Nx workspace, and now it will actually do something similar to npx, but it doesn't use npm by yarn. By the way, before it loads, how many of you? Sorry?
So you need yarn to use an
No, you don't. You can use npm. That's fine. I'm using yarn, so you can. By the way, how many of you have heard or have tried Copilot, the second tool? Okay. It's more actually than the next. This is interesting. Okay, so first it asks you whether you want basically an integrated and predefined workspace, or whether you really want to start from scratch, but to be faster, I'll choose the second option and create an integrated one. It also asks you what you would like to do there. I'd like to create some applications So I'll start with an empty workspace prepared for apps. How to call it? So let's call it like that. Now it asks you about caching, because you'll see in my talk later that the important part of Nx is that it can cache very well. So all the tasks which you haven't, or all the paths which you haven't touched will be cached. That means it's very fast if you need to build all your applications and so on. And this actually goes even further, and it asks you whether you want to use a caching on a server. That would be very handy if you had a team of developers, because then they will use the same cache as you. So if someone runs that, you won't have to. So that's a good thing. So I'll use it. Also, this is their business model. So for some small teams, this cache which is on their server is for free. If you actually have a bigger company, then you pay for that, and that's it. I also should mention that Copilot is for free only for like 60 or 90 days. Then you need to pay it as well. So it's up to you whether you like it or not. So you will see.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
This cache feature is like a service. It's like only as a paid service.
Yeah.
And you can't host it like in your own.
I actually don't know, because I have never used the paid version of that so far. So yeah, in our company we don't use that paid program cache. We only use Nx as is without the server caching. We only have like local caching. Okay, so I hope that everything is fine. It seems it is. What should I do next? Let's open the project actually. So what do we have in here? As you can see that there is all the structure already created by the generator. Nx has an ecosystem of some core plugin or core generator, and then some plugins which also contain some generators and executors. I can show you in PragueJS what was installed right now. You can see that there is some command line interface, the cloud for caching, and the workspace, and that's it, Nx itself. So it's pretty neat, and not very much here. You can see that there is some setup of folders, something for applications, one for libraries, also something for tools. If you want to create your own generator, I did that a few times, it's quite handy. So you can keep your custom generators here. And then there is some basic setup, plus this NextJS file, which is basically a configuration of the workspace. Right now it doesn't do anything, but we can get up and running very quickly. So next, what I need to do is actually install React generator, which is Norval. Norval is the company which actually develops the Nx. Norval/React, and I'll install it as dev dependency. I only need few plugins, so don't worry, I won't install like the whole demo. It will be just this one and one more, and that's it. There is actually a lot of more, and I can show you how many, but I'll use for my demo only two. So in the meanwhile, I can mention that it actually started a new or initiated a new Git repo. So you can see some changes which that command created. It only installed a new package, and I can actually show you how many packages there are at the moment, so you can run it. Nx is something you need to install globally if you want to use it like that. Otherwise, you need to type yarn nx. But for simplicity, I have that installed globally. You can also use, there is a Visual Studio plugin, Nx console, and you can run all the generators and executors from that console. But I prefer the command line interface instead. So if I type ns list, Nx list, I can list all the different plugins which you can use. So you can see that on that small screen it's quite messy, but I already have those installed by what I have just done. And then there are a few more which have like first class support from Norway company. So you can see that there is one for Express, Next, Node, etc. And then there are community plugins as well, which can be also useful, but I haven't actually used any of that. They are probably for more specific tasks, but I think that there is one which might be interesting for you, which is NX View. That's the community plugin. So if you use View, you can also use it with this community plugin. So right now, I have that new generator, package in place, which has some generators. And if I want to generate a new application, I can simply run nx g or generate, g is a shortcut, and then I can write normal/reg. And if I don't know what parameters it actually accepts, I can ask for some help, and I need to say that I want an app. And for app generator, you can see that there are a couple of parameters. You can see all that in documentation on the website, so you don't need to read it here, but you can also find it here if you don't have access to web, or if you want to find it fast. So what I'd like to do right now is generate an application, which I would call shell application, and there is one command which is called try run, which actually done everything, but it doesn't create anything. You will see it only in the console. It also asks you what system for CSS you'd like to use. So let's say SAS and PragueJS, and now it actually shows you in the output which files would be generated if I didn't call the try run. So you can see that it would go to all the files, and some files would be updated. So I'm fine with that, but for this demo I prepared not only one app but two apps, and those gonna use a micro frontend framework with module federation. I don't know if you have heard about that concept, but basically in a bigger team, if you want to scale up, you don't really want to have everything in one application, so you can have many applications, but you want to run them as one application. So therefore, you'll use some micro frontend, and Nx actually does it for you. So if I want to generate the host application, there is something called nxg normal, and instead of application, I will just call host, and I'll call it shell. And host is actually generating application, but as a host application for microfrontends. Okay, so I'll use SAS because this is what I like. Now it really actually created all the files here, and you can see it even in the structure that in apps I have shell, and I also have shell end-to-end. It comes together with two different type of tests. One is unit test through Jest, and you have a task for that, and I hope I'll have time to show that. and the second is actually Cypress engine test. And it comes like that out of the box. So now I can start the Cypress test and it will pass because there is just an application shell. That's it. Okay, so we have the first application bar. I'd like the second, and for that case, I'll actually call remote. I'll call it, how to call it, dashboard, and I'd like to pass one parameter, which is parameter host equals my shell. So now it knows that it should connect those two applications together. And I'll need to choose a few options here. I can also pass those options as parameters, but this is it there. Now I have second application also, I have end-to-end test for that, and you can see that I have like 4 applications in very short time. Okay, so let's try to run it. And because I created the shell application as the first one, it's the main application, and therefore I can start it using yarn start. So main application starts by yarn start. Other applications you can also run by you need to use Nx run command instead. So it actually started 2 applications on different ports. One on port 42,000. 4200. The second would be 4201. Okay, so here I have the shell application. You can see that there is actually React router installed already, and I can switch to dashboard application. And actually, if I go back to home and I clear this network tab, you can see that the remote entry is actually coming from a different port. So it's running 2 applications in the background. It has a development server for both with hot reloading and everything, but it looks like a one. And you can use React router to switch between those. And it takes me basically like, I don't know, 10 minutes. Okay, so what next? I'll just stop it for now. And now I'd like to create a library with some components which I will use in my applications. So there is another generator also in React package. But that generator is called lib or library, and then you need to pass a few parameters. You can as well use the help to see all the parameters, but I remember what I would like to use, and one is actually publishable. That means that it will create package.json because it will create a package, and if you want to use it only internally, you don't even need it package.json. It will just wire everything together, and you can use it as a package by internally without publishing it. This parameter actually exposes it, and you can publish it as normal package because there will be a package.json file and everything. It also should be buildable, and actually there is one more parameter which is required if it's publishable, which is import path, which is actually the name of that package which you use for importing it. So I'll use some scope, and I'll call it like that, and I forgot the name, which would become campaigns. I hope I didn't typo. Okay, so it just created a library for me in libs. So you can see campaigns. Again, it comes out of the box with some setup, you can also start linting and testing out of the box. There is some predefined component, but I'll delete this because I don't need it. Okay, and I'll create two components which I'll use in this example, and one component would be actually I would call it login form, and I need to specify project. Otherwise, it's going to default, which would be the application, but this time I want project to be components, which means it's gonna go to the library. I hope that's it. Should this component be there? Okay. Project name.
You have called campaigns, not components, right?
Sorry, yeah, you are right. I don't know why. It should be components, but whatever. So thanks for reminding me. Okay, so let's assume this is components, not campaigns. I don't know why I did this. But you can see that now I have indeed new folder with a new component. I'll do that one more time, and instead of login form, I'll actually create something for the dashboard, which would be data table. Okay, now I have actually two different components in the campaign slip, and you can see them here. And before I implement them into the application, I actually would like to do a few things here. And now Copilot goes on, because right now I'm stopping the command line commands, and yeah.
So does this create command do something special except like creating the files? Like this TSX file, does it like describe the created file in some configuration or something like that?
You mean the original create which I used on the very beginning?
No, these ones.
You can do this manually, I think, that you create
Yeah,
all files.
that's
And
basically
it
my
will be
question.
working or not?
You can do everything manually, that's fine. This is just faster, that's it.
Yeah.
This whole thing is that it has the generators which allows you to do very fast scaffolding of a new application without having to copy paste and writing your own stuff. If I run linting now, it would work. If I run tests now, it would work. So it's everything wired together. You can actually combine it, import it, and it will work out of the box. And now I'll actually change this data table component, and as a pro, what I would like to have here would be some data, but I'll call it users, and yeah, and I haven't specified user yet, but I will. And I'd like not number but string. I think it's better. And you can see that it suggests me something, and this is actually Copilot already doing this. It's trying to suggest what I attempt to write. So as I wrote first name, it suggests you to have last name, which is something, yeah, why not? And email, okay, I'm fine. And now I have user interface, which I'll use in my example. That's fine. And I'm missing the components, so let's now try how it works if I use the comment here, and I'll say component data table with user as a users as a props, and you can see that it even suggests me the comment, which is even more funny because it knows what I intend to write, and that list all users. Yeah, this is it. Okay, I hit enter, and now it suggests me what I should write next. So export function data table. Okay, I'll accept it. Return, okay, and I would go further like that, but I don't have to. I can remove this, and if I hit Control Enter, it actually shows me all that or up to 10 different suggestions, and I can accept one of that solutions which actually it shows here. I know that this is pretty small because we have quite small resolution on the projector, but you can see that it suggests something like that. And yeah, let's say the first one is probably good enough. I'll just copy paste it in here. And now I have my data table component. I know that this is not how would you probably work in real, but I'd like to show you how easy it is to use Copilot actually. So I'll close this suggestions and I'll open this drawer again. Okay, so it actually says something here. Yeah. And okay. And how about suggestions for some styling? Okay. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. And it's interesting because last time I tried it, it looked completely different, the styling I mean. So, yeah, okay. So we have some data table.
Will it keep
We will be
similar?
surprised how it looks like. That's it. And do we have this prop here? Yeah, we do. And yeah, I'd like to actually make it optional so it won't fail before we load some data. And here we will do users equal to empty array. What's wrong?
Equal, not semicolon.
Ah, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Now I need to remove props here. And that's it. Okay, so the first component is ready. The second would be something similar. I'll remove this part here. And let's say I'd like to have, yeah, and submit sounds good. Yeah, I know. And so it won't submit as a prop, it submits, yeah, okay, sounds good. And again, I'll probably run it like that. It synthesizes some submit forms for me. This first looks probably okay. I won't go any deeper to explore what are the other options. And I think, yeah, I'm missing one more thing here, which would be the style. This is the funniest part, the styling. Okay. Done. So I have two components, and I'd like to actually see it in storybook before we go to application. So there is actually another generator here, which is story. They asked me which projects I want to create the storybook scaffolding for, campaigns, components, and whether I want to enter test no, for now no. Yes. No. Yes. And that's it. Okay. Now we have storybook for my component library. I can show you how to. Now it needs to install other packages for Storybook, obviously, because we didn't install it previously. And when this finishes, I'll just start the Storybook and see whether we can see that fancy styling there. I know it's a bit longer, and if I bore you, just scream and I'll stop right now. I have few more things I'd like to show you, but I know that it's a bit longer than half an hour.
Maybe a question
Yeah.
about Copilot. Does it also take into account like your local files and so?
It does,
So-
because it creates context from your application.
Okay.
How it works is that it creates that context, sends it to the server, gets the response from the server, shows that options. So it not only has all that different options from the 10
Yeah.
billion code lines. Okay, so now I'll show you how to run some other command that just run start. So Nx run campaign storybook. Like to send, there is some pressure point. Okay, so something didn't go well. I don't want to debug Storybook now. Just believe me that in my previous attempt it worked, and I'm not sure what went wrong this time, but yeah, it has Storybook. You can run it. You will see directly the components from your library there, and that's it. Another thing which I wouldn't test right now is that if you are aware of Cypress component testing, you can also scaffold it like that, and it will prepare everything for you, and you can run tests on your libraries, even applications as you wish. Not only end-to-end tests, but also component testing. Okay, so right now we have that new shiny components, and we haven't used them yet. And this is something I'd like to now, if I can scroll somehow in the file structure, which is somehow whatever. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to the report. Application, you can see that there is that welcome which we saw when I started it. I'll delete that because we don't want that. Instead, I'll import, and this is the dashboard, so I don't want the login form, but I would like the data table from, and now it was demo/campaigns. Okay. And right now I can just put it out like that. That should work. The second component I have is for the shell, and that's actually the login form. Okay, so I'll remove the welcome again. This is not correct. Here's demo, right? Yeah. Okay. Great. Here we have links, which I can actually remove because I don't want it. And instead of this one, I like to have the login form, and on submit, and Yeah, let's say we would like to actually use navigate and in here. Yeah, okay, it suggests directly without asking, and now I'd like great. I can't see what's next. Okay, yeah, navigate to this world. I don't know how it knows what I want to do, but somehow it does. And I put it here. So if you understand what I've just done, I put it as this login form, which doesn't work obviously, it's just submitting. And when I submit it, it should navigate to the dashboard, and on the dashboard I should see the data table. So I'll save it, and if there was no mistake in the code, if I start my application, I should see. Okay, so there was some mistake.
One file is unsaved, so maybe just save it.
Sorry?
One file is unsaved, so maybe just save it. The login form is not saved.
Okay. Which file is that? You know, okay. Alright. Maybe that was the problem with the storybook as well. Thanks for noticing. Okay, yeah. That's the default component which I deleted, and I forgot to remove it from the export. Okay, last time I did it. Great. Now seems it pass, and you can open it here. And if I click login, I should be, yeah, nice styling, right? Okay, so this is exactly what I wanted. I have the two pages. First is the shell with this simple login form. The second is the table, and now I'm missing data. I know I'm running out of time. So the question is whether you would like me to continue a bit, or whether I should stop here and just tell you a few more words and that's it. So who is okay running like 5-10 more minutes? Majority? Okay. So now I'll show you one last thing, which is actually how to create an Express application. For that I need a different generator. So I'll just use yarn and /express, and it's gonna be the open dependency. So this is the second package I'll use for this example, and that's it. This application is gonna be a bit simpler. Okay, so this is it, and now what it does, it actually created a very simple Express server with some API endpoint, and I'll show you where is it? Oops. I didn't, yeah, sorry, I didn't generate it yet. I just installed it. Yeah. So ngg I'll generate an
application called API, and I'll actually connect it through proxy to our shell application. Okay, API is here. As you can see, there is some very simple setup for Express server where you have an API saying welcome to mock API. What I would like to do is actually to send some data to the front end. So I'll go like /users, and except instead of this message I'll call getUsers, which I haven't written yet. So to do that, I'll create a new file here, mock.js, and I'll actually export const users, and it's gonna right now export just an empty array. Okay, and I need to just load it. Great. So right now it actually should return an empty array, and we can start the server to see. So Nx run mock API and serve. And it's actually running already. I click it, I should see this is the hello, and if I go users, I can see an object. And right now, I can go back to the dashboard application where I'd like to actually connect it here. So users, and I'd like to actually import use effect and use state from here, and here in this app I'll use Copilot last time, and I'd like to actually, this is nice, this is exactly what I want to, and fetch users from mock API in use effect. Bam. That will be it. Great, I don't even need this because we have the proxy set it, and now I can only go to /API/users, and now I'll actually propagate the users in here. Okay, so let's start a new tab in terminal. Start. I'm not gonna create a data mock because it's gonna be time consuming. You can probably understand what I would go for that, but for the time save, I would like to stop here. So from the development perspective, I'm almost done. You can't see any data because we have that empty array, obviously, but if I go here and I just go to fetch, you can see that I actually fetch that users. So if I have some data there, it will be listed here. So what I have done right now, I actually created two applications in that microfrontend framework connected to some hook API backend. It took me less than 1 hour. It was like 40 minutes. I think that you can do it even faster without talking if you know Nx. So yeah, I think that it's pretty nice. And last thing before I end my presentation is about the caching and stuff. So there is something called Nx graph, and it actually shows you all the projects and the dependencies between those. It can find out from import and exports how they are connected together, what projects needs what, and for that reason there is something called affected, and if you build for example, or I can quickly start some tasks which is quick, which should be in this example. Nx affected lin. So this supposed to run lin task for every single project, application on or library where the lint is defined. So in reality, it would be for all. For the first iteration, it hasn't been run before, so now it needs to lin all of those. So you can see that it will take time. Okay, so I don't know, few seconds, 4 seconds, 11 seconds total. Right now, if I run it for the second time, you can see it was kind of instant, and this is because it knows the graph. It actually uses Git history to compare what was actually run when, and therefore it can only run the branches which are affected. So if I do some change in campaigns, it knows that it will actually need also to run dashboard and shell. But if I do some change in mock API, this won't run at all because it's not affected. So that's why it's so fast, and that's why it's so great for scaling up, because with that in place, you can have many applications or many libraries in one monorepo, and it still runs in good time, even on GitLab or GitHub CI. So I think that's it for now. I had much more prepared, but unfortunately, I didn't expect that it takes me for so long. And that's it. Thank you. Before we go to break, do you have some, like, 2 quick questions?
2 quick questions.
Or maybe 1? No? Okay. Okay.
So does Nx help you to upgrade the libraries which you use?
Yes, it does. There is something called Nx migrate, and it's actually good you ask. And yeah, you can actually say, yeah, this is nice, but what if something actually upgrades, how to upgrade the whole thing? And if you run the Nx migrate, it actually goes through all the different configurations, all the different files you created, and it migrates not only the Nx, but also the dependencies of Nx, so all React versions and these kind of things, as they actually create new versions or release new versions. But they do it quite often, so there was new version like 3 days ago right now. So yeah, it works this way. So the migration shouldn't be a problem to any version.
Is there a stable roadmap for this Nx as a project? Like,
I frankly don't know. Probably it is, but I haven't checked that. So you can search on internet and you can find it out.
so they don't guarantee.
But I believe, especially with that funds they got, now they have proper roadmap for like few years. And one more thing, they have NXConf every year. This year it was already happening, but it's online conference, so you can search
online on YouTube for that conference and see what are the breaking news with the last new major releases, and it's always quite interesting.
Yeah, maybe I have one big and one small question, so we can move big after that.
Okay.
But the small one, can Nx somehow unify the versions of the packages? Because if you use monorepo and a lot of packages, and you can basically have React 17 and 18, and then say, hey, you have used the 17 and 18, and basically that can be wrong.
So
Like that.
basically with Nx you only have one package.json with all the dependencies.
Okay.
You don't have many. You can actually have multiple, but it's and you can use workspaces from Yarn to do that. But they actually say you should only install it in the main package, and that would be like the only source of truth. So we won't have any conflicts.
So if there are some components that are publishable, then basically inherits the versions from the main.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, every time you publish it with the latest packages you have. I think that this is kind of good approach because it simplifies things. If you have every package with its separate dependencies, it would be much harder to control it, especially for module federation. It wouldn't work well because then you can't benefit from it really. But you can go that way. It's not prohibited, it's just recommended not to do that.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think that we are over time, like 2 times probably already. You can ask me more questions now. We have a break, or later we'll go for some beers. So yeah, that's it. Short break. After the break, I hope Peter is still online and he didn't fall asleep. So yeah, not everyone was there when we told it before. Peter is sick, so his presentation is gonna be remote. He's connected to Zoom, so he'll be speaking on the screen, but we can't see him physically. So it's reverted like online conferences, we have online speakers. Okay, break time. Thank you.
Yeah,